Her stomach growled so loud that Lucy looked up from her empty plate and asked if a wolf was in the house. Mary forced a laugh and said no, just her belly talking nonsense. She pushed her chair back and stood, smoothing her apron with hands that would not stop shaking. The kitchen held nothing. No flour, no bread, only one small potato, hard and wrinkled, sitting alone on the shelf like the last coin in an empty purse. Mary picked it up. She set it on the wooden board and cut it into 3 careful pieces. She did not cut a piece for herself. "Eat slow," she told them. "Chew it good." Tom, who was 10 and trying hard to be a man, pushed his piece toward baby Sam instead. "He needs it more than me," he said, though his own stomach twisted like a rope pulled tight. Mary watched her son give away his food, and something inside her chest cracked wide open. She turned to the window before her children could see her face. Across the dusty street stood the general store. Through its glass, she could see the shape of things she had not touched in weeks: sacks of flour, loaves stacked in rows, a block of yellow cheese sitting fat and proud on the counter. Mary's hands curled into fists at her sides. Then, without a word to anyone, she walked to the corner of the room and picked up her late husband's old hunting knife. She wrapped it in cloth and tucked it inside her apron pocket. Lucy's eyes went wide. "Mama, why do you have Papa's knife?" Tom stared at her too, his mouth open, unsure whether to laugh or worry. Mary knelt down and touched both their faces, one hand on each cheek. "Because tonight," she said quietly, "your mama is going to bring home supper, whatever it takes." She stood, wrapped a dark shawl tight around her head, and walked out the door into the blinding afternoon sun, leaving her children staring after her in stunned silence. The bell above the door gave a small, cheerful ring as Mary stepped inside, and the sound made her flinch like a gunshot. Mr. Higgins sat behind his counter, bent over a stack of coins, his lips moving as he counted. He did not look up. Mary's fingers found the knife hidden in her apron pocket. She did not plan to use it. She only needed to feel it there, a small piece of courage wrapped in cloth. She walked slow past the shelves, pretending to study a roll of blue cloth. Her eyes moved sideways to the food. A basket of bread sat by the window. A block of cheese rested near the scale. Dried beans filled small burlap sacks stacked in the corner. Her heart beat so hard she thought Mr. Higgins might hear it across the room. She reached out. Her hand closed around one loaf of bread. She slid it beneath her shawl, pressing it against her ribs. Then her fingers found the cheese. She took that too, hiding it next to the bread. The cheese was cold and slippery, and it almost slid from her grip. Mr. Higgins kept counting his coins, humming softly to himself, lost in his own small world of numbers. Mary turned toward the door, ready to walk out and never look back. The door swung open before she reached it. A tall cowboy stepped inside, filling the doorway with his broad shoulders. Trailed dust covered his long coat. His hat sat low over sharp, watchful eyes. Spurs jingled softly with each step he took. His gaze dropped to the strange shape bulging beneath Mary's shawl. Then his eyes lifted to her face, pale and frightened, sweat beading on her brow despite the cool store air. Neither of them spoke a single word. The cowboy stepped sideways, clearing the path to the door, and said nothing at all. Mary rushed past him into the bright street, clutching the stolen food tight against her chest, her legs carrying her home as fast as they could go. Behind her, inside the store, Mr. Higgins finally lifted his head and stared hard at the empty space in his bread basket. "Thief!" Mr. Higgins bellowed, storming out his door with fists clenched tight. "Someone stole from my store." Heads turned up and down the street. Doors creaked open. A blacksmith set down his hammer. A woman dropped her basket of laundry, letting it spill across the dirt. Sheriff Boone came running, boots kicking up dust, his badge catching the sunlight. Who did it? Which way did they run? Mr. Higgins jabbed a finger toward the edge of town. A woman, dark shawl covering her face. She went that way toward the small houses. The cowboy stood near the doorway, silent, watching the crowd gather like storm clouds before rain. He alone knew the truth. One word from his mouth could end this chase right now, but he said nothing at all. The sheriff and a group of angry townsmen marched down the street, their boots pounding the earth like a slow, terrible drumbeat. Each step brought them closer to Mary's small wooden house. Inside, Mary heard the shouting grow louder. Her whole body went cold and still. She looked at her children eating the last small pieces of bread, their cheeks finally not so hollow. "Mama, why is everybody yelling?" Tom asked, bread frozen halfway to his mouth. Mary's hands trembled so badly she nearly dropped the plate she was holding. "Stay here," she whispered. "Stay very quiet, my darlings, no matter what you hear." Lucy's small chin began to shake. Baby Sam, sensing something wrong, started to whimper softly in his basket. Footsteps grew closer outside, heavy and certain, like a rope tightening around Mary's throat. She pressed her back against the wall beside the window, not daring to breathe, not daring to move. Through the thin wooden door, she could hear men's voices now, low and searching, moving house to house down the narrow street. Outside, the cowboy watched the sheriff's group draw near Mary's home. He knew what waited behind that door. He knew what would happen the moment they knocked and searched inside. His jaw tightened. His boots turned, cutting straight through the dust toward the front of the angry crowd, planting himself directly in their path. "Sheriff," he called out, his voice cutting sharp through the noise. "Wait." Every head turned. Mr. Higgins shoved forward through the crowd, eyes wild. "You saw her. Tell us where she's hiding." The cowboy stood still, feet planted wide in the dust, and let a long, heavy silence fall over the crowd before he spoke. "I didn't see any woman steal your bread," he said, looking Mr. Higgins straight in the eye. "I saw myself take it." A gasp rippled through the townsfolk. Sheriff Boone stepped closer, his hand resting near his belt. "Say that again, son." "You heard me plain," the cowboy said, voice steady as stone. "I walked in this morning, took a loaf and some cheese. Hadn't eaten proper in 3 days on the trail. I'm the thief standing right in front of you, not some woman in a shawl." Mr. Higgins blinked, his anger cracking like dry earth. "But I thought." "You thought wrong." The cowboy dug into his coat pocket and pulled out a fistful of coins, hard-earned silver from months of riding fences and breaking horses. He pressed them into Mr. Higgins's open palm, more money than any loaf of bread was worth. Mr. Higgins stared down at the coins, then slowly closed his fingers around them. "Well, I suppose that settles things." Sheriff Boone studied the cowboy's face a long moment, searching for a crack in the story. He found none. "Case closed, then," he said finally, waving the crowd back toward their homes. The street emptied slow, voices murmuring about the strange cowboy and his sudden confession. The cowboy walked alone to the small house at the edge of town. He knocked softly. Mary opened the door, her face bone-white with fear. "Please," she whispered, "my children." "Nobody's coming for you," he said gently. "Nobody knows it was you." Tears spilled down Mary's cheeks. Why would you do this for a stranger?" He glanced past her, at 3 small children eating their last crumbs of bread. Something old and hungry stirred inside his own chest, a memory from long ago. "A hungry child doesn't know right from wrong," he said softly. "Only hungry. I couldn't let you pay for loving yours too much."